Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie State.
Labour puts forward a £3 billion plan to create jobs and build 100,000 new homes. Good morning, it's Monday the 1st of October.
Also ahead, a stunning victory for Europe in the Ryder Cup.
In other news this morning, hundreds... Also this morning, we're speaking to the former Holby City actor, Jeremy Edwards, about his devastating experience of identity fraud, all because someone had his name and address.
And Carol has the weather.
Good morning. First on main news this morning, the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls is planning a £3 billion housing boost to revive the economy if his party wins the next election.
In a speech to the Labour Party conference today, he will outline his plans for more affordable homes and a stamp duty holiday for first-time buyers.
Going to be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls about those plans at 7:10 this morning.
Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition.
The team, of course, went into the final day 4 points behind the United States, but the golfers managed to win 8 of the 12 games to snatch victory. What an incredible moment.
It was quite something, wasn't it? More with Sally a bit later on. We'll talk you through the drama from last night.
Superb.
From today, hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers.
Yes, at the moment, many workers are failing to get benefits because they have not yet enrolled. But over the next 5 years, 11 million people will have to start making contributions out of their pay. Controversial plans which could lengthen the flying hours of pilots across Europe are expected to be revealed later today.
The European Aviation Safety Agency is setting out its final proposal for a new law, but it's been met with criticism by the British pilots' union BALPA, which says passenger safety could be at risk because pilots are tired. Inquiry begins today in South Africa into the killing of 34 striking miners.
From today, the postman, or postwoman, the postie, will start leaving parcels with a neighbour. If you're not in, it's all part of a new Royal Mail scheme.
Now, a few weeks ago, you might not have heard of Gangnam Style. I would include myself in that category. But after more than 330 million views on the internet, the Korean sensation has reached #1 in the charts.
Tube history.
Don't do it. Don't.
Hop, Gangnam Style.
Sally wants to do it, but you are not allowed.
Really? Am I allowed?
It's like a celebratory dance, Sally, isn't
exactly.
it?
I think lots of people, certainly European golf fans, will be dancing this morning, Charlie. You don't fancy doing that?
And
little
quite a
jig
few
yourself?
people will have gone to bed last night thinking, oh dear, maybe, and then found this morning, yes.
Shall I make a confession right now?
Go on.
I think I've had about 10 minutes sleep. Just stayed up, watched it, listened to it on the radio at the very
to your sport.
Just so...
Well, he didn't hear it.
Yes.
Didn't he have somebody coming and knocking on his door?
He was leaving the hotel 20 minutes away from the course. And let me show you. Look at this. Rory the Time Lord, back page of the Express. There you see he is in a police car.
I thought you were saying a golf buggy.
No, not in a golf buggy, too slow. I wonder how that state trooper is feeling this morning.
It's funny though, isn't it? Sometimes when things go wrong, it's a sign that things are going to go right, if you know what I mean.
It really works, because I suppose he thought, right.
Oh, thank goodness for that alarm.
I want to do the front pages for you now. Front page of the Daily Mail. You've probably heard some of these.
Yeah, and on the front of the Guardian as well this morning. And then
on the front page of the Times, again, those pictures.
The case of the student and her teacher.
Yeah, it's also on the front page of the Sun, the same front page of the Independent. Stall.
Now, though, with other news on the economy, here's Steph. Morning, welcome back.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your first year on Breakfast.
Yeah, it's the anniversary of my first
Is
year.
it really?
So let's celebrate Gangnam Style. Go. Whatever. Charlie, I'm so glad it's you here because I knew you'd be thrilled to do that. But let me tell you...
Well, fancy it being a year, eh?
Fancy it being a year. You try to say it won't be much longer, looking at me like that.
I'm not saying anything.
So there you go. Lesson for all of us.
And does he build his own furniture?
He does, with an Allen key while eating meatballs.
While searching the instructions for the clues as to how to put it all together.
Thanks, Steph. See you
Steph,
later.
thank you.
Let's see, 18 minutes past 6 is the time. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. Our main stories this morning. Also coming up on the programme, the UK is...
Meanwhile, let's have a look at the weather, and Carol has that for us this morning. What a glorious, not just one rainbow, Carol, you've got 2 for us this morning. All right, Carol, thanks very much indeed.
A new National Police Air Service is being launched today to cover England and Wales. It's hoped the new group will provide cheaper and more coordinated helicopter cover.
However, some police crew members claim the changes will endanger lives because it'll take them longer to respond to incidents. Well, our reporter Graham Satchell is at an airbase in Redhill in Surrey, investigating this for us. Morning, Graham. Great. OK, Graham, thanks very much indeed.
Now, we've all done it, slept in or got stuck in traffic and been late for work or maybe for a meeting, but it looks like we are getting worse.
Yes, apparently more than half of workers in the UK are late at least 5 times a month, which isn't just stressing us out and the boss, but also costing the economy in lost time.
But is it really a big deal? We've been out finding out how people feel about being punctual.
Can't be late in this job, can you? Because you couldn't turn up at 6:10 and go, terribly sorry, I slept in. Were you all right for the last 10 minutes? I say, well, no, I was broadcasting to the nation without you.
The problem is it did actually happen once.
Do you want to tell us?
Not really. It was a bad day. It was a very bad day.
Did you-
Because you're quite right to say in this job you can't really be late, but it has happened.
Were you late and then ran in, scripts aflutter?
If I remember rightly, there was a non-appearance issue.
That's not being
At
late,
all.
Charlie. That's not turning up
Well,
for
it's
work.
kind of ultimate late, isn't it, when you're just not there?
The ultimate late. Email us if you've had the ultimate late. BBC Breakfast at bbc.co.uk. You can discuss this with other breakfast viewers on our Facebook page, facebook.com/BBC Breakfast, or tweet us at BBC Breakfast.
And remember, you can text 61124. Text costs between 10 and 12p, depending on your network.
And you can call us 03700 100 125. Don't forget, standard geographic charges from landlines and mobiles will apply. Kieran says, I'd like to see this item, but alas, I'm off to work.
Good
as
point.
I rely on public transport, which could be one of the factors involved, he says.
Let's see what's coming up in the next half hour. The licensing...
Now on time, as ever, to get the news, travel and weather where you are. We'll see you in a moment.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie State.
Good morning. Coming up on the programme, it looked like Mission Impossible. But Europe's golfers produced an amazing final day comeback last night to win the Ryder Cup. This morning, we're celebrating this record recovery with former Ryder Cup player David Guilford. That's in an hour's time here on Breakfast.
And as it turns 21, we'll look at the impact of the big issue and how it's helped turn lives around with the former seller of the magazine and the man who founded it.
Yeah, and they're two of the most recognised faces of the Olympics, Mo Farah and Boris Johnson, who will be on the programme together later on, telling us how they are helping to get more children involved in sport.
And we'll meet the sergeant and dog team who hold the record for finding the most explosives and saving countless lives on the front line in Afghanistan.
Yeah, first though, our main news this morning. Labour is calling for a £3 billion package of housing and construction measures to boost the economy. And in about half an hour, we'll be talking to Ed Bors to find out more about those proposals.
Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition.
Sally will have more details in just a few minutes. From today, hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers. At the moment, many work.
Controversial proposals on standard flying hours for pilots across Europe are expected to be revealed later this morning.
An inquiry begins today in South Africa into the killing of 34 striking miners.
A Russian court is to hear an appeal by 3 members of the punk band Pussy Riot, who were jailed for staging an anti-government protest in a cathedral.
And from today, your postie will start leaving parcels with a neighbour if you're not in as part of a new Royal Mail scheme. It aims to make...
A few weeks ago, you might not have heard of Gangnam Style, but after more than 330 million views on the internet, the Korean sensation has reached #1 in the charts. People who don't want to hear more of the music.
That's fair enough, yeah. It certainly wakes you up, doesn't it?
Does that?
At 6:35 in this morning, which is useful because Sally has been awake all night and needs more coffee this morning and more Gangnam Style. Well, like many people, of course, you didn't go to bed last night because it was gripping.
The golf, I did eventually go to bed. I haven't had much sleep, but the golf, you just couldn't turn it off. It was fascinating to watch and to...
Was it all sealed?
Do you know what? I can't remember. I think I would say
Was it a sort of blur?
It was all a bit of a haze. I had the radio on, I would say, around midnight.
Right.
And, yeah, around that time, I think.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sally. We'll see you a bit later on.
Now, do you shred your personal documents and regularly change your online passwords? Well, according to new research, not enough of us do. Now, the UK...
Your identity?
I have, yes.
Well, you're
yes.
someone who deals with different identities, but I suppose
That's
you didn't
true.
want someone acting as you.
No, absolutely not. It's happened to me a few times, actually, over the years. I'm not even that careless, but I wasn't careful enough. I didn't realise until it affected my credit rating. Somebody had taken a mobile phone out in my...
And, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, what did they steal that led them to become you?
Well, I don't know.
Very hard to know, I suppose. One of the statistics we said was that 7 months was usually the time before people even realise.
Well, it's very much the case, I'm afraid.
You as a credit reference agency, are you sympathetic when someone calls up and says, do you know what, this is against my name, but it's not me, I don't even know if I can prove it? I mean, what happens next? It's quite hard to prove you haven't done something, isn't it? I mean, so there's a record somewhere of someone in your name taking out a phone, for example. I phone you up and I say, well, that's actually not me, and you say, well, says it is. I mean, you know, what's the next step? How do I prove that it wasn't?
Well, we don't actually hold the information about the contract.
When did it take you, Jeremy? You said you saw your credit.
It took me
reference.
about, I think, 4 to 6 months. Not terrible, but
Continually check their credit rating.
well, I don't know any.
No.
I don't know anyone that does
But you're
that.
saying that if only you had.
If only I had, exactly.
Are you suggesting people do?
Yeah, I'm suggesting people...
Rating, doesn't it take time and effort and money?
No.
No, but it's...
Would be with the mobile phone company who gave out a contract to somebody who wasn't you.
Yeah. I mean, I did find that quite bizarre because they just needed my address. But like you say, all you really need is one piece of identification, you know, a household bill or something.
Things always amazes me when you see people on a train or a bus giving their credit card details out,
yeah.
and often giving out their address. I mean, they literally...
No, I don't think
someone could just be sitting behind them just writing the stuff down.
I don't think they are, and I think the information...
That's all evidence you shouldn't do, you know, to steer clear of it, you know.
You can't really avoid it in a modern...
You have a bandage on your arm.
Yes. I'm really not that...
You're shirking it off very successfully, but it looks like it was
Because
pretty
it's too
bad.
traumatic to talk about, to be honest. I can't believe you brought that up. I'm going to be in tears in a second.
No, you're okay. Oh, well, I hope
Thank
you
you both
are
very
anyway.
much.
Thank you.
Oh, good to see you. Hope you get better.
Time now 6:46. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. A reminder of our main stories this morning. Let's get a look at today's weather. Carol's there for us today. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, looks like it. Carol, thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol. Let's have a look through some of the papers for you. Front page of the Times. A lot of people using the images from the riders.
An investigation on the front of the Daily Telegraph made by Keith Vaz this morning.
Front page of the Independent, that rather curiously coloured image of...
And The Guardian also has a victorious image from the right.
Let's go to Steph now. We're talking about how much people get paid and how they get paid, Steph.
Yes, national minimum wage is going up for some people today.
Steph, thank you.
Pubs, clubs, even offices that want to put on a music gig are going to find that much easier from now on.
Yes, new laws mean premises don't need a licence for live music anymore, as long as they've got less than 200 people in the audience and pull the plug before 11 o'clock at night.
13,000 new venues are expected to take advantage. Jenny Hill has been to visit one of them.
Let's see what's coming up on the programme a little later on. We'll be talking to Ed Balls about the £3 billion housing plan. He says will kickstart the economy.
He's going to be on at 7:10 this morning. Time now, though, to get the news, travel and weather where you are. See you in a moment.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie State.
Major changes to pensions affecting millions of people come into effect.
From
Good morning. It's Monday, the 1st of October.
also ahead, a stunning victory for Europe in the Ryder Cup.
In other news, the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls called...
And every office has them. People who are constantly late for work. What impact does it have on business? We'll be talking about punctuality and performance a little later on.
And Carol is very much on time with the weather.
Good morning. First, our main story. From today, hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers.
Yes, at the moment, many workers are failing to get benefits because they haven't enrolled. But over the next 5 years, 11 million people will have to start making contributions out of their pay. Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition.
Yes, the team went into the final day 4 points behind the United States, but the golfers managed to win 8 of the 12 games to snatch victory.
And in just over half an hour's time, we're going to be speaking to David Guilford, who played with Seve Ballesteros in Europe's winning Ryder Cup team back in 1995.
Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls is calling for a £3 billion housing boost to revive the economy.
In a speech to the Labour Party conference today, he will suggest what he calls a clear and costed plan to build more affordable homes and scrap a 2-year stamp duty holiday for first-time buyers. So that's Ross reporting from the Labour Party conference. In the introduction to that piece, I mistakenly said that the Labour were proposing to scrap a 2-year stamp duty holiday. Of course, they are planning to introduce a 2-year stamp duty holiday.
Yes, let's talk a little bit more about it now with Ian Watson, who's at the conference recently as well, because they've got to shake off some of this stuff that lingers from what happened before. That's really what they're up to today, isn't it? Just a reminder for you, we'll be talking to Ed Balls about his plans. That's in just a few minutes' time.
Now, the British Pilots Union BALPA says passenger safety could be at risk if plans to lengthen flying hours across Europe are brought in, because pilots will be tired.
The European Aviation Safety Agency is setting out its final proposal for the controversial new law today. It begins today in South Africa into the killing of 34 striking miners. Workers
From today, the postie will start leaving parcels with a neighbour if you're not at home when they try to deliver. It's part of a new Royal Mail scheme. Open the front door thinking, has it arrived? And you get the card saying...
It's at the sorting office.
It's at the sorting office.
Now, a few weeks ago, you might not have heard of Gangnam Style, but after more than 330 million views on the internet, the Korean sensation has reached #1 in the UK charts.
Here it is, if you don't...
There have been annoying dance moves. You know, there was the birdie song. What was
The
the one where I had to
Macarena.
lie on the floor and do rowing?
That was before I was around.
OK, a long time ago, that one. Carol, of course, for her the weather. A little later on, about 5 minutes' time.
Now, 11 minutes past 7, the Shadow Chancellor will use his keynote speech to Labour's conference in Manchester to call for urgent action on growth.
New affordable homes, stamp duty holiday for first-time buyers. Those are amongst the plans he'll be putting forward.
He is, though, under fire from the unions over his support for a public sector pay freeze. So let's talk to him about all those issues. Very good morning to you. Around 2 years before an election, voters might be forgiven for not knowing exactly at this stage what a potential Labour government would do if it won the next election outright. You're attempting to put some flesh on those bones. So why don't I ask you straight out, which of the cuts that you've been so critical of the coalition government for making would you reverse? Of income tax, the 50p rate, which is due to be scrapped in April. What would a Labour government do about that? 50p tax rate, then? So you're saying that although today that is something that you consider an ideal, you couldn't promise that at this stage to voters who are wondering what you would promise as a potential government? Trouble is that a lot of, your own strategists are concerned that potential voters don't know what your party stands for, that 44% of Labour voters in a survey over the weekend are concerned that they cannot see your leader as a future Prime Minister, and that they need some substance to be able to know whether they should consider. You're saying it's too early to consider you as a potential government because you don't know enough. But what then can you say to those people who might be interested in voting for you? Is that if it's too early to make more than a couple of specific pledges, people focus on personalities. And at the moment, as you said, you personally are getting quite a lot of criticism from the unions. Paul Kenny says, I don't know how you respond to this. It's quite a cruel jibe. You'd give an aspirin a headache. And, a lot of the unions are critical of Ed Miliband, are critical of your stance on public sector pay. If that is the criticism you're getting from within...
20 minutes past 7. I know someone who can make people happy. Here's Carol, thank you very much.
Oh, Carol can make us happy with an
You nearly said
unsettled...
unhappy then, didn't you? Does sometimes.
Sorry, Carol.
7:22 is the time. A new national police air service is being launched today to cover England and Wales. It's hoped the new group will provide cheaper and more coordinated helicopter cover.
However, some police crew members claim the changes will endanger lives because it'll take them longer to respond to incidents. So our reporter Graham Satchell has gone to an airbase in Redhill in Surrey to investigate. Morning, Graham. You may have a view on that, and if you do get in touch with us this morning. 28 minutes past 7, still to come on the programme. The licensing rules on
News, travel and weather where you are. We'll see you in a moment. Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie State.
Good morning. Our main news this morning. From today, hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers.
At the moment, many workers...
Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition. The team went...
Labour is calling for a £3 billion package of housing and construction measures to boost the economy. The Shadow Chancellor...
Controversial proposals on standard flying hours for pilots across Europe are expected to be revealed this morning. The European...
From today, the...
That was my word.
Sorry?
Postie.
The
Well, it's a way of
postie.
avoiding saying postman and postwoman. But
Yeah,
I
the
should have
postie.
warned you before
I get
I
it. No,
put it
I was
in.
looking at it thinking, what word is that? Postie. I don't think I've ever seen the word
Did you think
postie
it-
written down
Did
before.
you think it was a type of dog? Like a Westie?
Westie. OK, from today, the postie, and we know who that is, will start leaving parcels with a neighbour if you're not in. It's all part of a new Royal Mail scheme.
And it aims to make it...
One other story for you. A few weeks ago, you might not have heard of Gangnam Style. Now more than 330 million views on the internet. The Korean sensation has reached #1 in the charts.
Here we go. And
We
you
were
should have seen Charlie before the programme.
don't
Honestly,
be silly.
can't stop him.
We were
What was
talking
that?
about
Was that-
annoying...
Don't be silly.
We were talking about annoying dance moves of the past. Agadoo.
Oops upside your head.
And the one with the
Oops
pineapples,
upside-
what was that one?
Agadoo.
That one.
That's Agadoo.
The Macarena.
Oh, that's okay.
Is it?
It's quite important.
So,
goal
if
for
so
people
anyway-
that-
If people went to bed last night thinking, I don't know what's going to happen, the
Europe have
extraordinary
got
thing
no
happened.
chance. This time yesterday, you would have said Europe have got no chance in the Ryder Cup. Oh my goodness, what a sporting year and what a sporting comeback over there. And he really was key, wasn't he? And he was a wild card pick.
Yeah, I mean,
Speech behind the scenes to go into those final stages, but golf's such a technical event, isn't it? I mean, how do you get really fired up, presumably in the dressing room, and then you have to you have to calm right down, and it's you can't go out and burst.
no, you
Who very rarely watches golf, and I wouldn't have a clue about the technical detail. It required so many people to hold their nerve at a moment when everybody was saying, if Europe won this, this would be an extraordinary moment. And to be able to then play your best with that crowd, thinking about that, must be incredible.
Gutted will the Americans be? I mean, they
Go on,
truly.
vote.
I mean, this
Go on.
time yesterday, they would have been thinking.
yeah.
McIlroy and his alarm. I mean, how
It was
aren't-
a time zone thing, I think, wasn't it?
But isn't there a crowd of people around you making sure you've got the right time? You know the details. You know what time to turn up.
Yes, because it could have been very different, couldn't it?
And Martin Keimer sealed the deal at the end. Yeah.
And seeing those scenes, you think, well, maybe.
Yeah. Have a go.
Can
Thank you
someone
very
who's never
much.
played golf in their life ever be a half decent golfer?
Coordination.
Fantastic. Good to see you this morning.
Terrific
Thank you
to
very much.
see. So as we mentioned, Rory McIlroy nearly late for his crucial day at work yesterday. Not many of us, though, can say we've never turned up for work a few minutes after we should have been there.
But there is a suggestion we're getting worse. Apparently, more than half of workers in the UK are late at least 5 times a month.
Is it a big deal? We've been finding out how people feel about being punctual. Speak to Liz Brewer, who is a behaviour expert, and entrepreneur Imran Hakim, who once pitched to the Dragons on Dragon's Den, didn't you? And I can imagine if you were late for that appointment, you would get wrapped over the knuckles.
Yes, the Dragons don't take tardy.
People in business would say, if you're not on time, you don't get the contract, you don't get the job, you don't get the pitch.
According to these statistics, we're getting worse. What, 5 times a month on
We are.
average, UK workers? That's a lot, isn't it? That's
It's a huge amount.
One day of the week, you're...
I was looking at this survey. I was
What chances do people get in your operation of being late?
I think as Liz said,
Apparently 41% traffic caused by roadworks, and then around 30% public transport problems, and then a quarter someone being unwell, 20% bad weather, sleeping through the alarm, and then 12% of people are late because they left something behind.
Yes, I know. But the thing is, we know traffic's
Well, our phone is part of the problem, because do we not all feel like we can phone up? So if you are running late, you can just call up and say, look, I'm about 10 minutes late, and that makes it better somehow.
No,
And that, it doesn't.
you can't blame it on the
From an
member.
employer's
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
from an
Before you
we
say,
said
right,
before,
chop.
I don't think it's a case of how many times you're late. It's the cause.
You want to look at the reason.
The reason, the root cause, I think, is what's important. And very often it can give you...
Indeed, Nikki got in touch by email. I used to be late a lot due to public transport. I had to start work very early. I had to get the very first bus, which didn't turn up a lot. So the driver told me to get an earlier bus, which would have been the night before and would have got me in 6 hours early. Problem, unfortunately, there wasn't a clear solution that would help.
It's like...
We don't want to be late to the news headlines here, so we're going to have to leave
It's
it
all
there.
about timing. Thank you. Now you're watching Breakfast from BBC News. Our main stories this morning are... Let's have a look at today's weather with Carol. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's move swiftly over to Steph, who's going to talk about... It's one of those things people get really upset about, isn't it?
We've had
Phone
loads
text.
of messages about this. This is about people who get spam texts.
Yeah.
You know, those messages there, that's the advice there.
Thank you, Steph.
Let's see what's coming up on the programme today. As it celebrates its 21st birthday, we'll look at the impact of the big issue with the former seller of the magazine and the man who founded it.
Time now, though, to get the news, travel and weather where you are, and we'll see you in a moment.
Why is it called spam? Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie State.
Major changes to pensions affecting millions of people come into effect.
From today...
Good morning. It's Monday, the 1st of October.
Also ahead, a stunning victory for Europe's golfers in the Ryder Cup.
In other news, the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls calls for a
Meeting one man and his remarkable wonder dog, the Army Sergeant and his Labrador Cross trio, who saved lives on the front line in Afghanistan.
And Carol has the weather.
Good morning.
Carol, thank you.
Good morning. First, our main story today. From today, hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers.
At the moment, many workers are failing to get benefits because they haven't enrolled. But over the next 5 years, 11 million people will have to start making contributions out of their pay. Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition.
Yes, the team went into the final day 4 points behind the United States, but the golfers managed to win 8 of the 12 games to snatch victory.
In about half an hour's time, I'm going to be speaking to David Guilford, who played with Seve Ballesteros in Europe's winning Ryder Cup team back in 1995.
Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls is calling for a £3 billion housing boost to revive the economy.
In a speech to the Labour Party conference today, he'll suggest what he calls a clear and costed plan to build more affordable homes and introduce a 2-year stamp duty holiday for first-time buyers.
Well, earlier the Shadow Chancellor told us that he wasn't offering a manifesto, but a sense of what Labour might be like in government. Time now is 9 minutes past 8.
The British Pilots Union BALPA says passenger safety could be at risk if plans to lengthen flying hours across Europe are brought in because pilots will be tired.
The European Aviation Safety Agency is setting out its final proposal for the controversial new law today. An inquiry begins today in South Africa into the killing of 34 striking miners. Workers demonstrating.
From today, posties will start leaving parcels with a neighbour if you're not at home when they try and deliver as part of a new Royal Mail scheme. It's all about trusting your neighbours, isn't it?
Absolutely. A few weeks ago, you might not have heard of Gangnam Style, but after more than 330 million views on the internet, the Korean sensation has reached #1 in the charts. There you go, now you know. Time now, 11 minutes past 8. Carol will have the weather for you in a few minutes' time.
Gangnam Style.
Gangnam, that's it.
Do you think she'll do it, Gangnam Style?
I don't think so.
There we go. 11 minutes past 8. The sight of a homeless person selling magazines is common now on many high streets. 2 decades ago, it was a very new idea.
Yeah, since then, the big issue has raised £150 million for its sellers, now celebrating its 21st anniversary this week.
So let's talk to the magazine's founder, John, to you both. John, well, we'll talk to you in just a moment about your reasons for setting it up. But Terry, you started selling it. What kind of position were you in when you got those magazines?
I was a homeless alcoholic.
Was it just take us through the journey? So from that position, how relevant was the selling of the magazine to where you are now? Just take us right back to those early days. And when you first launched it, I remember it very well when it first launched. There was a lot of scepticism about, I mean, people didn't just understand the concept at all. Did you get quite a lot of sort of negative response initially?
Yeah, I mean, the big problem...
You causing grief to other people?
Yeah, you know, in a small way, yeah. I was committing crime.
So it was mid-90s when you started selling the magazine. You say it gave you structure. How long did it take before you felt that you were no longer defining yourself as a homeless alcoholic? What are you doing now?
What do I do now? I run a day centre for the homeless in Canterbury, very small charity which I run. I also work part-time as a counsellor in a boys' school. I've just qualified.
I suppose, John, one of the things about the magazine, we've got the anniversary edition. I know you've got it there. I suppose one of the key things about the magazine was the famous people on the front covers. Were there a kind of turning points in if you like, on the editorial side when people started wanting to be on it, in it?
Well, yeah, it was after about inequality. I mean, if you buy something from me that you don't really want, he was an equal.
Just looking at some of the faces.
But for everybody like Terry, who's used it to manage to get their lives back on track, how many others do you feel you aren't able to help for whatever reason?
I would say, if I'm perfect.
The magazine helps a lot of people, but there are a lot of...
Good to hear your story today. Thank you so much for coming in. John, thank you very much.
Good to see you both. Thank you so much.
18 minutes past 8 is the time. Let's see what's coming up on the programme today.
No, wear the goggles.
He doesn't always wear them.
He's not going swimming. It's because of the dust kicked up by the helicopters. Here's Carol with a look at this morning's weather. Morning, Carol.
A new National Police Air Service is being launched today to cover England and Wales. It's hoped the new group will provide cheaper and more coordinated helicopter cover.
However, some police crew members claim the changes will endanger lives because it'll take them longer to respond to incidents.
Yes, let's talk to our reporter Graham Satchell, who's at the airbase in Redhill in Surrey. Graham, since we've been on air this morning and telling this story, a lot of people getting in touch with us, really quite alarmed, saying, how can they possibly cut the service and it be still as effective and not put people at risk? Thank you very much.
27 minutes past 8. Coming up, BBC News Morning.
Here on Breakfast, we'll be talking to Jack Straw.
Time now, though, to get the news, travel and weather where you are. See you in a moment.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Susanna Reid and Charlie States.
Good morning. First, our main news from today. Hundreds of thousands of people are being automatically signed up to pension schemes by their employers. Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup after their greatest comeback in the history of the competition. The team...
Labour is calling for a £3 billion package of housing and construction measures to boost the economy.
Controversial proposals on standard flying hours for pilots across Europe are expected to be revealed this morning. The European Aviation Safety...
From today, the postie will start leaving parcels with a neighbour if you're not in. It's all part of a new Royal Mail scheme.
Charlie,
you like that story? I know you do.
I like that story.
It appeals to
the thing
you.
is, I've got 2 of those red Royal Mail cards at home. Can they? Do you think they can now deliver them to a neighbour, or do I now have to go to the delivery office and pick those up because the scheme hadn't started?
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, it gets complicated, doesn't it?
It does.
One other story for you now. You might have heard of Gangnam Style.
I love the way you say it.
Or you might not. Have I said it correctly?
I love it. Well,
After
unless you
more
say it in
than-
Korean, I'm not sure that there is a correct or not or
Gangnam
incorrect.
Style. After more than 330 million views on the internet, the Korean sensation has reached #1 in the UK.
OK, those are the main stories this morning. Here's
Let's see
coming
what's
up.
coming up later in the programme.
What a lineup. And
So,
now, an
yeah.
epic victory.
What about that?
What a comeback. I know for those of you who perhaps went to bed early last night, weren't watching the golf or
Or
listening
were
to
too
golf,
nervous to
too
listen.
nervous,
Or thought it was all over?
Thought it was all over, a bit like lots of people this time yesterday morning. Oh my goodness.
Styles golfers have. 'Cause the Americans, there was quite a lot of rabble-rousing going on, wasn't it? The golfers themselves, encouraging the crowd. And others have a much more sort of composed way of going about things. Do you think that made it harder, or do you think that was almost like an inspiration for the European players, hearing the noise around them?
Yeah.
The guy you're playing against is playing to the crowd.
Testament to mental strength, being able to, not just with the crowd there, but with the odds stacked against you, with people like yourself thinking, so much pressure. What's going on in their heads?
Yeah, I think it's changed the way the Ryder Cup was.
Yeah.
David Guilford, thanks very much. It's not often you would hear people cheering for Team Europe, is it?
Yes, that is unusual, isn't it?
Yeah. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
We've tried to be a little bit more punctual with Carol. She's complaining about lateness
told us
earlier
off
on.
earlier on for our timekeeping.
Sorry, are we on time, Carol?
Thanks very much.
It is worth it. You're absolutely right, Carol. 8:44. Now, do you shred your personal documents and regularly change your online passwords? According to new research, not enough of us do. And now the UK is more prone to identify with your broken hand, which we'll talk about just in a moment. First, you're a victim of a crime, but you didn't realise for 6 months.
No, I didn't realise because it wasn't.
Standing issues to do with that, which then led the Credit Reference Agency to have you down as a bad credit risk.
Yeah, I wasn't.
So they took out a mobile phone contract in your name at your old address. So they had your name and
Yeah,
your
or they
address.
must have had some form of document, some kind of maybe a utility bill or something that you'd need to do.
Presumably moving house and leaving, you know, companies, utility companies, to send bills to your old address must be one of the problems, is it?
Well, it is, which is why we're running this campaign this month. You know, it's
But if you've got someone's name and address, which are presumably, you know, I mean, that's pretty easy to find out, and then you've got a utility bill. What about making mobile phone companies, for instance, require more proof?
Well, they do.
So, Jeremy, alerted to that particular issue, I guess you start thinking about it more, and then you start looking at Facebook and
Yeah, I know. I'm really not that unlucky. I didn't think I was that unlucky until I came on this programme. I know somebody impersonated me on Facebook as well.
Well, it's a public forum, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I only realised because friends
on these sites now, people putting dates of birth, mother's name.
It wasn't even you. This was somebody else putting out.
Were
they putting out your information, or is there enough information about you online that you could actually
Well, there would
create?
be, yeah.
I mentioned it earlier. You know, you can be on a train sometimes, and people are having conversations about, I don't know, making a purchase, whatever it is. They'll give out. You'll hear a name, you'll hear an address.
They'll read their card number, their credit card number.
Part of the problem is someone is asking those questions. I mean, if it's such a risk, you should never have that conversation out loud in a public place, should you? Why? I mean, they should check first. Shouldn't they say, where are you talking to me? You know, I won't ask the questions if you're on a bus.
Well,
Jeremy, so you've had your identity stolen. Someone pretends to be on Facebook, and I know that we're highlighting all the bad luck you've had, but we can't ignore your sad broken arm.
Yeah, so
But
they're after my watch.
Being investigated.
Yes, they think they've got them. So let's, fingers crossed.
And you, fingers crossed, but not thumbs, because the thumb is broken.
That's why I'm wearing this. Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for coming in, both of you.
Let's see, 8:50 is the time now. Pubs, clubs, even offices that want to put on a music gig are going to find it much easier from now on.
New laws mean premises in England and Wales don't need a licence for live music anymore, as long as they've got fewer than 200 people in the audience and pull the plug before 11 at night. 13,000
new venues are expected to take advantage, and Jenny Hill has been to visit one of them.
Oh, and we've got a very special guest in the studio this morning. They say a dog is man's best friend. Our next guest, Faithful Canine, is a lifesaver. Former Army Sergeant David Hayhoe and his dog Trio became inseparable when they were deployed to Afghanistan.
Yes, the job was to find hidden roadside bombs, and they were so successful that Trio was awarded the animal version of the Victoria Cross. Both of them endured numerous attacks, some which killed friends and colleagues.
And David's written a book about his experiences and joins us now. Is it Trio, David?
Yes.
Not Treo?
No, it's Trio. T-R-E-O.
And he, now, you know, it's not unusual for a dog to have a ball, but the ball plays a critical role, doesn't it, when Trio is out looking for explosives?
The ball in itself, we train our dogs on the ball. The dog has got to have a high drive for that ball. Ammunition, and that's potentially what the dog is searching for.
There are so many extraordinary moments detailed in the book, and I'd just like you to take us through one of them, which is the suicide bomber. You were out on patrol.
Yes.
Trio is off the lead, is that right? And you are faced with a situation where there's someone walking towards...
The content that this guy had on him, it was flowing. All we hear is suicide bomber, because he can... I got Trio back within seconds of Trio.
Now, what's happening? Are you trying to protect Trio?
I've got to protect Trio, so he's in my arms.
People don't see it that way.
But my colleagues don't like the thought of me.
Because people would be fascinated. In practical terms, so Trio is sniffing out bombs, and presumably he's right on top of the bomb. Does he get, and how does he not detonate? Because these are IEDs, so maybe just under the surface. How do you make sure he doesn't start, I don't know, either putting his paw on them or start... There might be
well, he wasn't digging at that.
Story, and he's such a lovely... He's
dog.
nodding off now.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because you have such a special relationship with him, don't you?
He really is, my boy. He is the best friend.
He's desperate for is someone to throw that ball for him.
The book is called It's All About Trio, Life and War with the World's Bravest Dog. It's out now.
Now, the Olympic and Paralympic Games, Andy Murray's first Open tennis title, last night's Ryder Cup final. We've had an amazing year of sporting success. Are young people getting more active as a result?
Yes, a report by the Young Foundation has set out ways to ensure that spectator spirit turns into participation. Tim Muffet is in South London, hopefully with a couple of people trying to make that happen. Tim? Watching that with interest. Jack Straw's sat with us.
Yeah, morning.
An MP.
Of course he isn't.
That's such a popular character.
I've been...
And being stuck on a zip wire to their advantage.
No.
That's a skill.
No, it is.
We're going to talk more in just a moment, so stay with us for a moment if you will.
Yeah, let's have a quick last look at what's happening where you are, and we'll talk to Jack Straw more in a few moments. Stay with us. So we're talking with Jack Straw this morning. He says the first rule of politics is to survive. He's certainly done that. After 33 years in the business, including being the Foreign Secretary who saw us go to war in Iraq, Jack Straw is now revealing all in his book.
His memoirs not only cover the difficult decisions he made, but also the testing times he's experienced in his personal life. Jack Straw, about the decision to put your face in quite a large scale on the front of the book. I mean, I assume you're someone who's not enormously comfortable with sort of pushing yourself out there in that way.
Well, it is odd to go around bookshops and things and see loads of pictures of myself in quite this way. I mean, of course, if you're in the public life...
It's literally like...
Craig Brown was saying yesterday, he gave me a nice review, but also talked about this picture being a bit in your face, which it is. Anyway, that...
life, because I think you almost make a virtue of the fact that you sort of kept your head down a bit in some respects, in terms of when we were talking about celebrity a moment ago.
Yeah.
That is something you're deliberately not doing.
Well, things have come back to bite you to a certain extent, and of course, being Foreign Secretary at the time of the Iraq War is something that you deal with, as people would understand, at length in the book. Now, you say it's a war you could have stopped.
I could have stopped. I couldn't have stopped the United States going to war.
There, that the public considered to be the evidence that they were presented with, the dodgy dossier, and another dossier, which you believe you have other reasons for at the time thinking that.
But the other one, the September one, was well worked on and contained nuggets of...
Infuriates people still.
No, I know. No,
on that issue,
and I don't blame them.
Do you accept now that it was sexed? The evidence now appears to back that up, and your position is you made a decision at the time based on what was in front of you. But do you accept now that it was messed with?
No, I don't accept that it was sexed up, and we'll wait for the Chilcot inquiry, and I don't think this is of intelligence, which was inevitably speculative, but on the basis of what we absolutely knew like gospel.
To ask about that, I just want to talk about something more currently, which is Ed Miliband, your leader at the moment. One of the things that emerges in your book is that you are saying things now about your leaders, indeed prime ministers, which you didn't say at the time.
Certainly
you are saying, for example, that Gordon Brown, I think, what is the phrase that he didn't have the character, he wasn't up to the job of being years ago, and he was your leader. You didn't tell us that.
No, I didn't.
So now when we ask you about Ed Miliband, and we say, is he the right leader? What are you going to say?
Well, no, it is any more than you're going to go out and if I ask you what you think about the producers here, or the new Director General.
It's not of the same significance. Well, this is the leader of the nation.
So
what do you think about Ed Miliband?
It's about collective responsibility.
What I'd like to see you here today, and thank you very much. We, I believe, are going to be talking to Ed Miliband ourselves tomorrow.
Good.
Yes.
So that'll be our chance. Thank you.
And the new autobiography is called Last Man Standing, Memoirs of a Political Survivor. Jack Straw, good to see you. Thank you. Have a good day, whatever you're doing. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.